We are Fandom Roulette.
Two nerds with a passion for
History,
video games,
tabletop games,
and, well, really any nerdy stuff that comes into our lives.
While we might not be able to name every ship classification in Star Wars,
Or every Pokemon.
or every spell in the player's handbook,
Well, one of us can.
we're still here to have a good time. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And here on Fandom Roulette, it's a podcast where we talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including history, video games, tabletop RPGs, and any other nerdy stuff we might think about when it comes up. So hey Cody, have you been up to any nerdy stuff this week, my dude?
Yes. I mean, my life is always deep-seated in role-playing games, so I did some of that this week, and that was fun. But I can't speak more of it, not until a later date. But beyond that, I saw the trailer for Joker on Smash.
Okay.
And holy crap, it was everyone's just going to get the King K. Rool treatment, and everyone from here on out is just going to have super reflex that reflects melee and range attacks just all the time, all day, every day.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And guns. Everyone's got guns now. Ever since Bayonetta, everyone needs a gun.
I mean, come on, Cody, everyone needs guns.
Alright, I concede. It's true.
Yeah.
Everyone in
Good.
Smash needs guns. Mario, gun. He needs a Tommy gun.
You know, remember that iconic Mario where he got... I mean, time out though, Mario did kind of get a gun though.
What? Are we talking about Flood?
Yeah.
That's true. And technically Flood is in Smash, so damn it. I'm trying to think of a Smash character without a gun.
I mean, there's
a lot.
Donkey Kong doesn't have a gun.
Yeah, but look at those arms.
I guess, do you consider breath weapons a gun?
Probably not, I guess. Well, and then all the Fire Emblem characters. Like all 20 of them.
You know what, though? You know it's like a medieval gun?
What?
Sword. You get sword or you get gun. Those are the options. Line in the sand.
Well, Joker gets both.
I mean, of course he does, because he's Lupin or whatever.
Well, yeah, he's
Isn't he supposed to be Lupin?
kind of. I mean, it's a complicated story, but the best way to just kind of like hand wave it is, yes, very much like Lupin, but instead of stealing treasures, he steals people's hearts, or like people's like insecure, like, their hidden past deeds and stuff like that.
Sure.
Kind of your Robin Hood, but for mental disorders, I guess.
Did they show what his final smash is going to be?
Yes. Is
it going to be like one of those deals where like all of the friends from the game show up and they all like reveal their personas? Okay, cool. I was
sort of
secretly hoping.
Are you familiar? Are you familiar with the hold up mechanic for Persona 5?
Oh, I mean, I've seen it parodied all over the place.
Yeah, where like they all like jump in, the screen turns like red, and everyone's like a silhouette, and they like attack that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the animation for it, but you activate it kind of like who else has basically you jolt out in a straight line in front of you.
Oh, kind of like Marth.
Yeah, Marth is a good example of that. But you can also control it a little bit. So, like, if you miss, if you rapidly tap backwards while you're moving forward, Joker will also, like, zip backwards. So,
oh, that's neat.
Yeah, and then it plays out like that, where the whole Shadow Persona 5 gang come in and destroy you.
Dang, I was kind of hoping, because like that's half the fun of that game, right? Is like all of their various personas and... Yeah,
well, he has like a 2-form system now where his down B, it reduces incoming damage but fills up a meter.
Oh, okay.
And and when his meter's full, he can release his persona, like the first persona he got.
Sure.
Because you find out later that he's a very special persona user and that he can collect and capture personas like a Pokemon, where most people don't.
You say.
Right, and so unlike the supporting cast, he can collect a bunch of them, but his starting one, his starter Pokemon, is like hangs out behind him and augments his abilities.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a neat process. Yeah, I'll see how it. I'll probably end up downloading the update tomorrow. I think it comes out tomorrow, and then tomorrow for when people hear this. So besides fangirling over Joker and some D&D stuff, that's about it. Yeah. What nerdy stuff have you been up to?
Fair enough. So let's see. There's a couple of things. Obviously, like D&D, as you said, where we played it. It was a lot of fun. The new Star Wars trailer dropped for Rise of the... Okay, so I'm going to throw something out there. The trailer was dope.
Yes.
It might be my least favorite Star Wars subtitle, and I don't know why.
You know... So I was listening to a bunch of people talk about it, honestly, because I couldn't decide whether or not I liked the name or the subtitle Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Because I think I secretly was hoping that the new Star Wars movies had very little to do with the Skywalker family.
Yeah.
Considering the past 6 movies technically 6, 7, 8. The past 8 movies have had a lot to do with the Skywalker family. And what was nice, or what I really liked about The Last Jedi, was Kylo's big, kill the past. And I really loved that mantra of, because it's, I know it's, Kylo's thing, but it's also, a thing for the movie,
Sure.
Get rid, kind of get rid of what this is a new expanding universe. And I really hope someone had, like I said, I was listening to a podcast this afternoon, and someone had a theory about how they think how it's gonna end, and I'm not gonna reveal it here.
Sure.
You can go and search the internet for fan theories, but it makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it kind of boils down to, and someone defended it to me. So, it's they've had 9 movies, they deserve to have their name with the title, but at the same time, it's there's never been one individual character who's been invoked, at least in terms of title, right?
Yeah, because you got A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the
Jedi, Force Awakens,
Last
Jedi, Attack of the... I mean, I guess the closest is Attack of the Clones, but still...
Yeah, but even then, it's that's so vague.
Mm-hmm. And it's a unit. It's an army. Whereas, I don't know, man. It's just
Phantom Menace. They didn't even tell you who the Phantom was. Can I? This is going to be a little aside about Star Wars, but
sure.
As much as I hate the prequels, there's something really cool about the idea of a detective noir with Obi-Wan trying to figure out what the fuck's going on and who's trying to sabotage the Jedis from within.
Yeah.
There's something really neat about that, but much like the prequel trilogy, it was done in this weird echo chamber and fucking, green screens, and when Sir Lucas put it into practice, it just kind of fell off the table, shattered into a million pieces, but it looked pretty.
Yeah, I saw an interesting theory or not an interesting theory, but a good critique, which is, Obi-Wan spends most of the first movie hating Anakin, and then he's I will train the boy at the end of the movie, and it's it would have been more interesting.
Why?
Yeah, it would have been more interesting if Qui-Gon really didn't like Anakin, and Obi-Wan over the course of the movie had built like a little friendship with him.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you can still have the Qui-Gon dies moment and stuff, but it's like, man, I don't know. It's just like I feel like they just totally wrote Obi-Wan wrong in the prequels, like overall.
Well, also, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments telling me I am. But with Star Wars, it's this sci-fi like genre where there's this one thing that's kind of like mystical and almost fantasy, which is like the Jedi Order. Sure. And like their magical force powers, and there's good and evil. Like that's to me that's very fantasy. And I always hated when they tried to like sci-fi up why Anakin was supposed to be the chosen one, like the midichlorians and all that shit. Like you could have just said, I can feel the force coursing through this kid's veins. Like and they never bring it up again. Nobody's ever like, hey, what about them midichlorians? Am I right? And right.
Someone said it made it sound like the force was like a disease, right?
I mean,
like
space aids. But it gives you powers, and that's why you can't have romantic relationships, because then you pass on the space aids.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's like the whole other. We could go on. We could do a whole bashing the prequels.
You know, episode. And at one point we should do a bonus episode where we just shit on these movies. Yeah, and then, anyways,
one last real. I promise I'll keep this quick, and then I'll jump into the history. Another cool thing that I did this weekend. So it was my sister's birthday, and I got her for a present this game called Villainous. Which
is that the Disney board game where you play as the Disney villains?
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I heard about it, and I saw a preview of it on YouTube. Good.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's a resource management game. It kind of has like a Lords of Waterdeep feel, but it's not quite as like big and clunky.
Sure.
And it's just really neat. Like the cards are really well designed. I think it's not too difficult to learn. Like I had it figured out by halfway through game one. My sister took a little bit longer, but like I think she's starting to figure it out. And I was shocked at how well balanced it was, because like if you look at every character has a different motivation. So I'm just going to throw two off the top of my head that I know. Jafar's is get the genie and the lamp into the Sultan's lair. And then Prince John's is collect 20 power, or like collect 20 money. Now one sounds a little bit easier than the other one, right?
I mean, sure, if I'm looking at this from a very narrow understanding of how the game works.
Yeah, but the thing is, Prince John has very little powers himself, so he has to spend money to like buy troops, whereas like Jafar's magic isn't very expensive, so he can do more for like less. So, you know, it's deceptively simple. Oh, I just got to collect power, but like you know, you have to pull out troops, and then the hero cards do various things as well. It's fun. I want to play it with you guys sometime.
Hell yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what you think, because I know you like board games, and I personally found it not too hard to learn and incredibly well balanced. So
nice.
All right.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely have to play that soon.
Heck yeah, man. All right, now into the history.
Right, what lies are you telling me today?
I'm gonna open up the dusty old tome, because history's old. This week we're talking about the Battle of Shiroyama.
Cool.
Which took place on September 24th, 1877, in Kagoshima, Japan. So this was the final battle of the Satsuma Rebellion, where the heavily outnumbered samurai under Saigo Takamori made their last stand against the Imperial Japanese Army troops under the command of General Yamagata Aritomo. My apologies. And Kawamura Sumiyoshi. This is an example of a last stand. We're going to go east this week and learn about an Eastern conflict. So, to give you an idea of the last stand of this, the Imperial Japanese Army under Yamagata Aritomo was 30,000 troops, and the troops under Saigo Takamori were 500.
Yikes, that is a definite power difference.
Yeah, right? Okay, so the Satsuma Rebellion was a rebellion that was started by the samurai class of Japan as they were rebelling against the Imperial Japanese Army. This happened about 9 years into the Meiji era, and it gets its name from the Satsuma domain, which is where it was an influential place where a bunch of unemployed samurai lived. So that's why they started the revolution. Okay, so just like a real quick background about Japan and Japanese history, like real quick before we get into this. So the samurai are basically like the feudal lords of Japan.
Okay.
So do you know how feudalism works? Or at least the concept of it?
This is where
No, it's cool.
I know you've talked about it on the podcast when we talked about knights.
Yeah.
Because wasn't that feudalist? Yeah, so it's like there's the king, or like the high person in power, and then there's like knights, and then like peasants. And
and
that's about all I remember.
And so, I mean, to call them like the feudal lords of Japan is like a little bit of a simplification. But
sure.
Suffice to say, this was a caste. So it was like a social structure. The samurai tended to be, they were associated with a clan and their lord. They were trained in military tactics and they had grand strategy. And basically, like, they were the people who were armed. So they, for a long while, were like the main force that was protecting Japan. And basically, after and the other big thing about the samurai class is their moral code or things like that.
Their honor.
Yeah, their honor, basically.
It's actually called Bushido, or the warrior way.
It's very similar to like the chivalry codes for knights. The samurai had their own. And so basically during Tokugawa shogunate, samurais increasingly became couriers, bureaucrats, and administrators rather than warriors. And then after, the Western powers started moving into Japan, they start seeing themselves doing things like not having swords and things like that. But basically, as Japan was kind of modernizing, there was this rebellion that basically they were trying to restore like the emperor and things like that. And the newly formed government included changes that were trying to reduce the power of the feudal domains and try to remove the power of the samurai. So basically, the samurai were not cool with losing this power, and so they began to rebel.
Most people with power don't usually like it when power is taken away.
No, yeah, that's absolutely correct. I'm not gonna lie. So, following the defeat at the siege of Kumamoto Castle and other battles in central Kyushu, the surviving members of the samurai forces led by Saigo Takamoto fled back to Satsuma where they seized the hill of Shiroyama, which overlooked the city of Kagoshima. And so in 1870, so this is in 1877, like I said. And so the imperial troops under the commands of General Aritomo and Marines under the commands of Admiral Sumiyoshi began to arrive, and the rebels were surrounded. So after combat losses and defections, Saigo only had about 500 remaining from against a force of 20,000. Oh, I'm sorry. I have that backwards. So he only had 500 remaining of a force of over 20,000, which had besieged the government garrison. So he had lost quite a lot of soldiers over this basically 6-week period.
Big oof.
Yeah, right. So Yamagata basically at first decided that they were going to just bide their time. They created some fortifications that encircled Saigo. In theory, basically, they were planning on sieging them, starving them out, and he was planning an attack on all sides in order to prevent an escape from Saigo. But, the problem was, one of the things is they're on top of a hill, right? So they do have a little bit of an advantage because they had the high ground, which was yeah, Star Wars. But basically, Saigo defended the position with limited musket support and only a few pieces of artillery, but basically they were doing things like melting down metal statues to create bullets and tended to injuries using carpentry saws, which is pretty gross. And then finally, after basically the final barrage that lasted the night, Yamagata's men attacked Saigo's position. The samurai under heavy fire charged the lines, which had not been trained for close combat sword fighting, but basically these guys were able to hold their own because of their advanced swordsmanship, for the fact that they were from the samurai class. But basically 30,000 versus 500, it's not great math in anyone's definition, right?
So what you're telling me is, despite them being awesome Bushido warriors of samurai justice, in the end, numbers still win even with the high ground.
Yeah, pretty much.
Damn it.
Yeah, and so basically, this was the end of this rebellion. So Saigo was mortally wounded, and basically, the rest of the ex-samurai charged, died, and at that the Satsuma rebellion came to an end. So here's the thing, there are some legacies from this. Surprise, surprise. This rebellion took quite a lot of money to finance. So basically this forced Japan off of the gold standard and made them move over to using paper currency. The rebellion also effectively ended the samurai class, as the new Imperial Japanese Army built off conscripts without regard to social class. And in February 1889, Emperor Meiji did pardon Saigo posthumously, and he is remembered with having statues in Ueno Park in Tokyo and near the ruins of Kagoshima Castle. And he is considered a tragic hero by a lot of people who live in Japan. Now, one last thing. This might sound familiar to some of our listeners because it was loosely based off of the story. The story is basically what inspired the movie The Last Samurai, which was directed by Edward Zwick, where Ken Watanabe portrays Katsumoto, a samurai leader who is is based off of Saigo Takamori. My apologies. And basically, it's Hollywood, so they get some things wrong. Like, for instance, in actual history, Saigo and his men were using modern day weaponry. They were using muskets and guns and things like that, even though it does end up ultimately following into a sword fight or sword charge. But yeah, that's basically the story of The Last Samurai is based off of this rebellion, which, if you do the math at home, does actually happen after like the American Civil War and things like that. So, any questions?
Questions? No, I think you got it.
Cool.
I mean,
yeah.
I was actually, I guess, more of a comment than a question. I was actually wondering when we were gonna move away from the kind of European and I don't know what's the right word, because we've done a couple from like, you know, your World Wars.
Yep.
We did
it's Eurocentric.
You know, Spartan. Yeah, Eurocentric. That's probably a good word for it. But yeah, I was looking forward to you know, some samurai or
There's some more I'm going to talk about that are you know, not non-Eurocentric and things like that. This was one I kind of wanted to save till later just because of the crazy numbers, like the crazy disparate numbers. I mean, obviously like the 300 had some pretty crazy numbers as well, but
sure.
This one literally, so like when you talk about the 300, there were also a couple of garrisons of non-Spartans there too. This one was literally just 500 guys versus 30,000 troops. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is quite the that's quite the oof.
Yeah. And I mean, so I've personally not seen The Last Samurai.
I haven't either, weirdly enough. I know, I'm sure there are hundreds of people that have been like, you haven't seen it? And I'm like, eh.
Yeah, right. That's kind of my take with it too. But I know that, this period has been invoked in various like animes that I've watched and things like that. I
mean, isn't this like kind of Gintama?
Yeah,
or close?
I feel like it's near, like, I feel this is closer to the end because, there was still the shogunate, or like the shogunate still exists in Gintama.
Okay.
And then this is during the Meiji this is after the Meiji Restoration.
Okay, I understand.
And like one of the reasons why the shogunate kind of was against the Meiji Restoration had to do with samurai. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong there. But
okay.
So anyway, that's history.
That's history.
It's
people died and stuff.
Yeah, man. That's the majority of it.
Damn it.
I'll try to think of a happy subject for next season.
Next season, history's puppies.
Yeah, I mean, there's like literally nothing I can think of that would end up being like happy. There are things that have some bright spots for sure.
Sure. Are we getting into a meta narrative where we're just like shitting on humanity as a whole?
I don't like to think of history in that way. I like to think of it as hopefully someone's out there like listening to the reading this stuff and listening to this stuff and being like, I think we can do better next time. Although
yeah. Glass is half full scenario.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I'm just like, I smashed the glass. No one can have anything.
Right? Yeah.
So,
anyways,
you know what it's time for?
After that, after all that fun, I think it's time for
middle section.
Hey everyone, welcome to the middle section where we're telling you about some of our social medias and things like that. Boy, Cody, I'm having a great time, but I want to tell you guys how much fun I'm having on the podcast. How would I do that?
Well, if you want to lie to us, you can tweet at us at fandomr_podcast. That's our Twitter handle.
Damn, son, that was cold.
It was a goof on you. I'm sure everyone loves it. Wink.
Well, I want to write you a longer thing.
Yeah?
That describes in detail why your opinion about Obi-Wan and the prequel trilogy is bad.
Okay, fair enough. If you would like to do that, and I'm sure we'll find out very, very soon. You can email us at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com.
People who don't even listen are just going to send in hate mail like, hey, I haven't listened
Yeah, we're going to get hate mail from like a bunch of people because someone finally was like, you know what? The world needs to know these two assholes.
How dare you like The Last Jedi?
I mean,
it's my second favorite Star Wars film.
I actually really like The Last Jedi. There's some parts that I'm kind of like watery on, but I didn't hate it like most of humanity did.
I loved it. It's my number 2 after, of course, Star Wars Solo, a Star Wars.
You know, I want to tell you, you are now you are the first that I've heard that wants to die on that hill. I heard somebody today say the exact same thing. There are two. There's you and someone else on the internet.
Oh shit! Yes.
Yeah.
And a girl I met at a grocery store who
Nice.
was bagging my groceries into my Solo, a Star Wars story reusable grocery bag that I definitely own.
Nice. Love it. So anyways, we should probably get back to the middle section.
Yeah. Hey, but Cody, I don't want you guys to have my email because what if you sell it to, like, Russia?
Well, for starters, we would never do that to you. At least not voluntarily or willingly.
I promise 100%.
But if that still makes you uncomfortable, if you feel like I'm lying to you, that's fair. I understand. You can go to our website at www.fandomroulette.com, where you can find a myriad of things such as bios of us. You can also find all of our episodes. You can also find, at the very bottom, right before our social links, a little area where you can fill out like your internet handle. Ooh. And a subject box and what you want to talk about. If you want to get in touch with us, we've had a couple people in the past get in touch about things that we have talked about on the podcast before. And, you know, just anything that, you know, you don't need your email, you can do it there.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else. Hey, Cody, where can I listen to us?
Well, for starters, I don't know how you got here if you're asking that question, but if you'd like to give this to other people to listen to.
I hate this theoretical asshole who's asking all these questions.
We're on iTunes. We're on Google Play. Of course, we're on SoundCloud with all the other cool rappers. And we are also on Spotify. And all of your fun RSS feed podcast services like Pod Addict and things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, are there any social medias besides the tweeters that you're on?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram and Tumblr. And, you know, we're always looking to eventually spread that out and hit different areas. I know we've been talking about YouTube for a bit. That's still potentially in the works, although with the way YouTube is going nowadays, you know, we will decide if it is a worthwhile venture.
We'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then anything else? Oh yeah, hey, remember to rate, review, subscribe. Rate,
yes,
like,
tell a friend. Yes, get us up there and show other people the goofiness that is us, because, you know, we do this in our spare time. We both have, other life things that we're doing on top of this. And, who knows? Maybe down the road we can expand and do other things like stream or other, kind of side bits, if you will, that aren't necessarily Fandom Roulette styled, if that makes any sense.
Cody, why would people want us to watch us sit next to a small body of water?
I hate it. Anyways, I think it's time to get out of here.
Yeah. Sigh.
Oh dear God. Yes, I love it. My everything is turned around. I've always wanted a psychic duck.
Hey, my name's Breck, and I'm one of the lifeguard trainers at Misty's gym. This is my side duck. Sigh.
Wow. You both have... It must be that the Pokemon trainer and their Pokemon just always sound the same.
what are you talking about, man? Listen to my.
You guys just have a very similar inflection.
I mean, hey, this is Joe jumping in here real quick. I'm gonna have to agree with Breck over here because like Psyduck is like he's like hi, and Breck's like hey. I mean, this Breck. Do you mind if I do like an impression of you real quick? He's like, yo, go ahead, Joe. It's like he's more like, hey guys, it's me, Breck. So like, whoa, man, that was a pretty good impression of me you did there. Thank you, Breck. I pride myself on my good impression. Oh my God, Psyduck's attacking me. Oh God. Oh.
Well, that's what happens when you imitate our lovely guests to the podcast for the video game section. Only so that they can ask me what we're talking about this week, and then we never hear from them again.
It's true. They disappear after that. They're like, all right, we did our part. And
yeah. Well, I mean,
I cut them their check for $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's why we're hemorrhaging so much money.
Yeah, I'm really in the red right now, Cody. People actually go and cash them sometimes, and I'm like, oh God.
Oh God, what have I done? How many credit cards do you have trying to pay for all these guest stars?
Let's see, how many weeks are we in at this point?
So
anyways, what video game we're talking about this week?
Well, this season we've been talking about indie games with the asterisk that I know technically the definition for indie games is a independent developer. However,
and who wants to play so many games that feature Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame in them?
Sure.
Because that's located in Indiana, so it's an indie game.
I'm
going to make that joke work, so help me God.
Oh.
Wait. I have another. Wait, can I do another one real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question, Cody. You're talking about indie games.
Uh-huh.
How many different directions can he whip?
What? I don't know.
Like indie games, like Indiana.
Yes. Well, speaking of that, that's actually a really good segue into this game.
Oh, God damn, really? I'm proud of myself.
So the game I played over the course of last week was a game called Pathway.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah, it's it's developed by Robotality. It was published by Chucklefish, which, if you're familiar, I'm sure we did a Chucklefish game at some point earlier, but they are a publisher that is like mostly focused on indie developers getting their games out. So I still think this counts. So that being said, Pathway is a turn-based RPG set in kind of a Pulp Fiction universe of things similar to Indiana Jones and The Mummy, where you play as a party of explorers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's a pixel turn-based tactics like XCOM or Fire Emblem, where you got to move around the map when you're fighting, and you get to stab, shoot, or explode Nazis, zombies, and cultists. Like, it, think Pulp Fiction, and it's probably in there somewhere.
Okay.
As I am aware, because there might be some secrets that I didn't get to play as much as I would have liked, but there are 5 like distinct missions where like the first one is like Nazis have taken like another explorer and your goal is to break them out. Okay. And then the other one that I've played, or one of the other ones that I've played rather, is like you find like you're looking for this thing called the Wrath of God. So like very pulpy like themes in this game.
Very Indiana Jones.
Super Indiana Jones. And it's cool because it's got a lot of like light mechanics. Like it's partially kind of like a hex crawl where you have to get from one side of the map to the other, and each hex has a potential for an encounter.
Okay.
Some encounters are good, some are bad, some are just basically neutral. This is also partially, like very lightly, a resource management game because you have fuel and you have to buy and have enough fuel to get from one side of the map to the other. And each hex you cross costs you fuel.
Okay.
You also have bullets that you have to keep track of. Your guys can have guns, but every time you shoot them, you use bullets. So you have to make sure you have bullets, or otherwise you're stuck using knives for your last encounter because you didn't prepare for the boss fight, and everyone had about, at best, one shot on them.
Interesting.
I'm not speaking from experience.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it at all.
I think part of it is, because like I said, there's hexes, like some things are good, some things are bad, but a lot of it is done in like that kind of small vignette of a scene where like you find a old, Nazi watchtower, and you investigate it, and then they give you a couple of choices. And then those choices either lead to good things, they'll lead to bad things, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. And what I like is that there's a lot of light mechanics in this game. Like, I'd love to say it's a turn-based RPG, but like the RPG stats are fairly light mechanically. Like, there's not a whole lot going on there. Like, There's your health stat. There's your movement stat. And, like, that's it. There's no complications. Like, if you hover over the text, you know exactly what you're getting from that stat. Mm-hmm. I say it's turn-based, or turn-based tactics. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of tactics. There's cover mechanics, but it never gets so complicated as to overbear itself, I feel like the idea of this game is you want to continue to play in like replay levels, because while the map like visuals might look the same, and like the mission of finding the guy that the Nazis took will stay the same, every hex is different.
Okay.
So you might not see the same. Like, you might go down, you might take the southern pass to the objective, but you might not see the same stuff that you saw the last time you did that. So it's procedurally generated that way. There's a lot of fun elements, but they never get too, drowned in themselves. Like, it's never too heavy, which made me, keep wanting to play. There's this weird kind of, loop of I collected all this stuff, I beat it, now I can go through again. And you get you only start off with 2 party members, but you can find people out in the field.
Okay.
And you can eventually get it up to 4 people. And some of and as the mission, as you go to the different missions, the missions become harder and longer. Instead of just going through 1 map, in the second mission you go through 2 maps. And so on and so forth. The game gets very large.
Okay.
My beefs with this game.
Sure.
Because I have a hard time believing that I'll ever find the 100% most perfectest game in the world for me. But
yeah, of course not. I mean,
that being said,
everything has flaws.
True. This game is a little grindy.
Okay.
I think the difficulty curve is a little too sharp from one adventure to the other. So if you're just looking to blow through those 5 missions, you're not going to get that experience. It also doesn't help that sometimes I feel and I have a decent computer. Without getting too technical, my computer runs most of today's games with very few hiccups or lags or anything like that. That being said, for a game that wants me to repeat missions and level up these characters and get loot and stuff like that, there are a lot of times where the game is loading, or there's an animation that you have to wait through in order to move on to the next part and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that force you to just sit there and look at the screen. And that can be frustrating, especially in a game that all right, I've seen this vignette before. I don't want to sit there and listen to the guy tell me, and then we got to the Nazis and we're sneaking up behind them. It's yeah, I did this last time. Which might be another problem in its own, that some of the events aren't quite as random, or maybe it's possible it's a bug, or possibly that there's just not enough events. But in my short time playing it, there were a couple times where I'm like, I've seen this vignette. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
However, that being said, game's only $16 on Steam.
Okay.
Not a terrible asking price. Especially because I believe I've put 15-ish hours into it. I still haven't gotten past the third adventure. So, like, I've put a lot of time into the game, or at least for $16. I think if you're looking for something that's, like, deeply tactical, like the more recent XCOM expansions and things like that, you're not going to get that here, and that might frustrate some people, because I don't get me wrong, I love a really deep and complicated, like, turn-based style tactical game. I get that. Mm-hmm. But that's just not what this game is, and based on what I've looked online from, like, devs responding to people's complaints, I think they think the same way. I don't think combat and the RPG mechanics are ever going to get more complicated.
Okay.
The devs, I was looking online because I'm like, I feel like, because I saw that on Steam it has mixed reviews right now. Some people love it, some people don't. That happens. But then I saw that the devs posted like a kind of I guess it's just like a message to the people playing that they are listening, and they're basically looking to fix some of the minor complaints that I talked about, like some of the events not being so random.
Sure.
Stuff like that. And but this is by no means a perfect game, but I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I'm actually really curious and excited to see how they fix this game up, how, like, the future of this game, because they did mention that they're planning to release additional content for this game. Like, just generally, I'm excited to see where this game goes, despite the beefs that I have with kind of the grindy nature of the game.
Mm-hmm. Sounds cool.
And, yeah, and that's Pathway.
I like it.
Do you have any questions? If not, that's fine.
What's the tone of it, would you say? Is it like kind of tongue in cheek? Is it taking it so seriously?
I think it's I kind of think it leans itself to try to be serious.
Okay.
Although, I don't know. I think it's in between. Like, sometimes there are certain things that are serious, but, like, at the same time, like, some of the events you can get into are like, yeah, and I had to kill, like, 10 zombies. So, like, how serious can you really get with, like, pixel people shooting at pixel zombies, I guess?
Sure. I mean,
I think it's trying to keep itself moderately serious, but not, like, so serious that it's, like, too tense or anything like that, if that makes sense. Plus, they got, like, a really good, like, Pulp Fiction narrator who's, like, that old, like, that old gruff guy who, like, kind of narrates certain parts of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I think that's it for me.
Nice. Well, yes, people, if any of this interests you, I recommend you at least take a look at Pathway. I think it's fun.
All right.
Yeah. Oh.
Ugh.
Man.
Ugh, dude, ugh. God, it's in my mouth.
Oh.
Do you smell that?
I don't. What do you smell? What's the smelliest smell of smelling that you've smelt?
It smells like a wet dog who just got skunked.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like
gross.
That's like 2 layers of bad smells right there.
Yeah.
Do you smell it?
I don't, but, like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's, like, permeating in, like, a weird, like, brain smell.
Oh, God. I hate those brain smells.
Those brain smells are the...
Hey, guys, this is Garbage Kid. This is a podcast where we talk about, or no, I mean it's a yes. It's
No, this is a podcast in and of its own.
Yeah, it's our own thing where we make a brand new character from a little book that you might have heard of called Xanthippy's Guide to Most Things.
I have a question about this.
Yeah.
Does it have most things?
One might argue it has everything. But yeah, about halfway through Xanathar's Guide to Everything, there is a series of tables that you can roll completely random characters to create your own player character or NPCs that sometimes, just based off of completely random rolls, give us some weird, fun little things. So this week we're talking about my new friend named Führer Jackal.
That is amazing.
So Führer Jackal is a tabaxi.
Okay, you got to pick your own.
I rolled a 100. Who is a neutral evil cleric of the Grave Domain.
Oh.
But they started off life as an outlander. They knew who their parents were or are. They were born on board a boat or a ship.
Cool.
And they had 3 siblings who were younger than them. They were raised by a mother and father, and they lived a squalid life and lived in an encampment or village in the wilderness.
Cool.
They had a few close friends and lived an ordinary childhood. They became an outlander because they spent a lot of time in the wilderness as a youngster, and they came to love that way of life. And they became a cleric because they realized that their god works through them, and they do as commanded, even though they don't know why they were chosen to serve.
Man, that sounds like some weird marionette shit, but continue.
Right? Their temple was said to be an oldest surviving structure built to honor their god. Their keepsake was a metal-bound book that tells how to hunt and destroy infernal creatures. And their secret is an imp offers them counsel. They try to ignore the creature, but sometimes its advice is helpful. And then, this is where I got kind of sad, Cody. They're 51 to 60 years old.
Damn.
But they only have 3 life events.
The fuck? How did you roll so low?
Can I reveal that real quick?
Yeah.
If you've never looked at Xanathar's Guide to Everything, when it gets to the ages part, you roll a D100, and then it gives you like the rages, and then the life events are an increasingly higher number of dice or like sided die based on how old they are. So I had a D10, and I rolled a 3.
Ugh.
That was really sad.
Bummer.
So they had a supernatural experience. They woke up one morning miles from their home and with no idea how they got there. They fought in a battle. They escaped the battle unscathed, though many of their friends were injured or lost, and they fell in love or got married.
Ooh.
The Cody roll.
Yeah.
All right.
You know.
Now, I'm feeding this piece of paper into the machine.
What does it say?
Hot Topic YN with 2 little boxes.
Ah, yes.
So to rank our garbage kids, we determined whether or not they would go into a Hot Topic or buy anything. And I've spent $10 million on this very large machine that prints out the same piece of paper every single week, and it's going to make different horrible sounds every single week unless it breaks, which it might, depending on the feedback of the episode.
Okay. I personally, I hate the machine.
You hate
it
the
feels
machine?
it feels it's taking up half your room, right?
Like half the floor, more like.
Yeah, and it just makes a bunch of noises, and I could just write for you Y/N instead of having a machine do it, because you know what's going to happen one of these days?
It's gonna break.
One of these days, it's going to break, and then it's going to get mad, and then it's going to find Skynet, and then we got a Terminator situation.
Oh, you see, it's interesting. You know what this stands for?
No.
Or its name is Here, let me tell me if you think they go to Hot Topic or not. I'm just gonna be doing something over here real quick.
Sure. My thoughts definitely went into Hot Topic. I think the imp that it hangs out with will definitely like buy something from Hot Topic. I don't know if this boy does, or this garbage kid.
I would agree with your assessment of this. I think imps kind of bleed out.
They bleed Hot Topic.
Yeah. So the guy who sold me this machine told me that its actual official name, and it's weird that I bought it considering what the name is. It's a sentient killer of youthful podcasters and never even is traumatized about it, or Skynet.
Wow. How long did you spend just like frantically trying to find a way to spell out Skynet?
Remember that time where you were like, Joe? And I was like, yeah, I'm here. That time. I wrote that one real quick. I wrote that one on the quick. It's not my best work, but it was pretty good.
You know, I have to say, that was pretty good. I don't think I would have done that in the same time. I would have just been like, it's Skynet.
All right. Well, and of course, as always, once we're done with that piece of paper that cost me $10 million.
$10 million, we have to start spending less. And then you
throw it in the garbage. All right. Oh. Here comes the next thing I spent. Okay, now this is a special garbage can that cost me $20,000.
You have to stop.
You know that scene in Monsters Inc. where they blow up the sock?
Yeah.
It does it anytime a piece of paper goes in there. It costs like the lighter fluid alone.
No.
$26 million.
Oh, Joe, you are hemorrhaging the budget. There's so many things we could be doing with it, but instead you've bought a Kanye West garbage can.
Yep, I bought Kanye West's personal garbage can. I got a big old computer. Oh, what's that over there in the corner? Grind. Oh, that's right. It's a Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville machine.
What does it do?
It makes margaritas.
Now I feel silly.
Now I'm gonna make tasty margaritas. But I bought one of the ones from the actual Margaritaville that looks like a gigantic tornado.
So I like to imagine your room is a giant computer.
Yep. That's threatening to kill me at every moment.
Yeah, it's got a knife pointed at you. You've got Kanye West's garbage can.
Yep.
A small little desk and chair where you get to sit.
Yep.
And then a margarita mixer that's also taking up the majority of your space.
Yep. And here's the coolest part. I'm gonna flip a little switch on the margarita machine, and I'm gonna hit it again. Wasted.
Redacted.
It away.
Redacted.
Again. All right, then I hit the button. I turn the button off.
And then it has made you a margarita.
The sick.
Redacted.
Sicker of salt.
Redacted.
Oh, I'm good. Some people
Redacted.
claim that there's
Redacted.
No.
So here's the thing. With all those gaps in there, can't get us for copyright infringement. Bring it on, the Buffett estate.
Please don't attack Jimmy Buffett.
He can't do anything. If it's fair use because it's for comedy with quotation marks around it. And B, I didn't even say full phrases of the song. I stopped periodically and broke it up.
Anyways,
I know the laws.
Before we get sued, before we get sued, we're
best
gonna
of
move
luck,
on.
Buffett. I'm I'm $50 billion in debt from dumb shit I bought.
All he can acquire is your debt.
I mean, that would be kind of cool though. Anyway, hey, want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that some more instead of how we're going to get sued by Jimmy Buffett.
It's not going to happen because of fair use laws.
So
was for comedy with quotation marks around it.
sure, let's call it comedy.
Exactly.
Guys, we're a comedy podcast.
That's why we put quotation marks around it. So anyways, hey, we're talking about monsters.
Ah!
Ooh.
Sorry, I was scared. I
Yeah, I know
when
you
you
were.
said monsters.
Here's the thing. It's literally, though, like, every time I pull up the monster manual to talk about it, like, there's always a fun image where I go, a little bit to myself. Especially this week. Hey, Cody, what are we talking about this week?
We're talking about aberrations. Or just, like, really, realistically, like, just the weirdest, craziest creatures we could find in the various 5th edition books.
Yeah. Hey, Euclid, get the hell out of here. Because we're talking about non-Euclidean stuff.
Yeah.
This is a really aggressive episode.
Right, it's so aggressive, and you like called out someone who might actually be named Euclid, and it's just like was one of our biggest fans, and now Euclid just doesn't want anything to do with us. He's gonna find us and
I doubt that
make us wish we were sorry.
I doubt that the ancient Greek mathematician. Oh, would you look at that? There's a little panel underneath Skynet that said created by Euclid.
Oh, god damn it.
That's cool.
We're gonna get killed by robots. Anyways.
What if next week I just did a bad robot like voice the entire time? Like I was pretending that it was pretending to be Joe, but it was like a horrible robot voice.
Oh, it would be the best episode of 2019.
I'm gonna put that one in my back pocket. That might happen
All
next
right.
week. I haven't decided yet. So anyways. Yeah, so these are like eldritch aberrations.
Yeah, Aberrations is a creature type in D&D.
Yep.
It's been around since basically the beginning, but has had many kind of like tweaks and things like that. There are certain creatures. I think initially it was just like any creatures that hailed from what D&D considers the far realms, which are basically anything that's not super close to the material plane. There's like a whole chart of it, but basically anything that's like kind of alien or mysterious or just downright bizarre.
So you said there was from the far plane?
Well, the far realms is
the
what
far
they
realm.
said.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
So there are near realms and there are far realms. Are there wherever you are realms? Man,
I don't want to get sued today.
I'm just hitting so many home runs tonight. Like, goddamn, like my numbers are blowing up right now. The crowd's on its feet.
There's actually a Celine Dion realm where all mind flayers go. They've captured her.
Oh shit!
And the only way we hear her songs and things like that are through mass illusions created by mind flayers.
I mean, that makes sense. Like they know how to get to the heart.
Yeah.
Which is funny because they should be called heart flares.
It's a new one. Wizards of the Coast. That one's for you.
Did you hear that? That was me hitting another home run.
And the crowd goes wild as we haven't talked about a single monster yet.
He's the greatest.
So, to get back on track, because we've never done that before.
Chugga.
What is your... we decided we'd look at some monsters from this realm, because there are so many, and we could probably do entire episodes on one of these creatures, but we're just kind of doing some broad strokes, because he doesn't like a couple broad strokes. So, Joe, what is your favorite aberration?
I chose a 2.
Nice. Tell me about them.
All right. So, well, I mean,
how about you tell me one? I'll tell you one. We'll do like a truth or dare share situation.
Sure. So I was gonna throw some out there. I mean, obviously, like my favorite one is the Beholder. But I wanted to do different ones, and yeah, if you chose Beholder, like that's awesome. But like, I think most everyone. I did not.
Beholders
Beholders were like parodying in Futurama at this point. Like, They're like pretty.
Yeah, beholders are basically the creature that everybody knows. If you even remotely know about Dungeons and Dragons, you have seen the spherical creature with the one big eye, the goofy mouth, and then like a bunch of like eye stalks coming off its head.
And like all the stalks do like different things. Like one like it's crazy. But I chose a gibbering mouther.
Yes. Yes. Blah, 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 blah,
so I just want to read a brief description from the monster manual.
Yes.
This creature is the composite eye. This creature is the composite eyes, mouths, and liquefied matters of its former victims. Driven to insanity by the destruction of their bodies and absorption into the mouther, those victims gibber incoherently, madness forced to consume everything in reach. Pretty gross. The gibbering mouther, imagine, if you will, an amorphous mass of mouths and eyes that propels itself by oozing forward, fastening several mouths to the ground and pulling its bulk behind it.
Oh, yes.
It's all-consuming. It's driven to devour any creature it can reach. A gibbering mouther flows over victims transfixed by its mad rantings. So, when we were like setting out for this, like, I thought that most aberrations were going to be like crazy high and crazy powerful.
Sure.
And I was pretty surprised to find out that the gibbering mouther, I mean, obviously it's scary and it's beefy, but like it's something you could throw to a relatively low party if you wanted to. It's CR.
I have seen a D&D game where a gibbering mouther was thrown at a level 1 party, and it was disastrous.
Yeah, but it was messy.
It was definitely messy. Someone definitely got all consumed by the mouths.
Oh my god. Okay, so they have a couple crazy things here.
Yeah.
So basically, within a 10-foot radius of the mouther, it's difficult terrain because it's just this like amorphous blob. So if you were a fighter and you wanted to run in there and attack it, you'd have to do a DC 10 strength saving throw or have your speed reduced to 0 until the start of your next turn, which is probably not great because boy howdy, if it consumes you, you are all consumed, my friend.
Yes, that's another crazy ability about it. The fact that if you get returned to 0 hit points, if you're playing it by the book, it consumes you and just you're dead. You're gone. Rip up the character sheet. It's done. It's over.
The other thing it has is something called gibbering, which is you have to succeed on a DC 10 wisdom saving throw. And on a failure, the creature can't take its reactions till the start of its next turn. And then a D8 determines what it's going to do on the turn. So it's similar to that mystic spell.
Yes.
Where it like basically once you basically go insane and it controls what you do. So
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. This might be one of the lower level aberrations, but man, these things with the fact that if you can hear it, it has a chance to control one of your actions or all of your actions, and the fact that it basically, if you happen to go into its weird doughy like AoE, there's a chance that your speed is reduced to 0. So like if you're trying to flee, like one of my characters tried to do, and then got their speed reduced to 0, and then I basically gobbled them up.
Yeah.
It can be pretty rough. It's this creature is definitely like just having one of these in a room can be really devastating to a low level party.
Yeah, pretty much. It's they're pretty scary. And yeah, they're pretty horrible. Now, what do you want to talk about? What brace you chose?
I have 2.
Yeah.
I decided to pick my favorite classic. So like stuff that's been around since the dawn of D&D or has a very strong tie to Dungeons and Dragons, and that is the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer, yeah, it is I guess you could call it a humanoid like creature, but it has kind of like a squid-like head with like tentacles that come off of its face. It's got these psionic abilities, so it's basically like a super psychic, and one of these, just one, is basically a deadly encounter all the way up to level 5.
Oh my god.
Like, and the thing, at least in D&D lore, I don't often use, or rather, I haven't used a Mind Flayer in its entirety. It just hasn't come up where I could have a good moment about it, but
Sure.
they are considered a highly intelligent, very alien, like almost like slaver race. Actually, another thing to note, a lot of the intelligent aberrations, like ones that like aren't just like blah 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 blah, I'm gonna eat you, like most of them are assholes or slavers. Like that just seems to be like the D&D way of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Mind Flayers, Neogi, Aboleths, all of them like in some way try to like enthrall people to like work for them. And that's what I love about Mind Flayers is like they can enthrall people to work for them. So you can really throw just about anything and it could be connected to this Mind Flayer. Like you can do an entire campaign a la Curse of Strahd, but set up where there's this Mind Flayer who is controlling a town or a city or something, and like your job is to like get to the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when like you realize that like, oh, those bandits that were, you know, trying to kill you, they were actually doing it because the Mind Flayer told them. And if you picked up Volo's Guide to Monsters, they have an entire section on Mind Flayers and the way they work, or the way they work in D&D lore. They also have a couple of like variants of Mind Flayers. Like there's Mind Flayers who are like magicians, which weirdly enough is not like kosher in traditional Mind Flayer lore. And then they have what's called the Elder Brain, which is the thing that controls all the Mind Flayers in this kind of crazy mental hierarchy. And it's just a giant brain sitting in a tube. It's everything I wanted.
Don't they create like almost like ant hills? Or am I thinking of something
Kind
else?
of, yeah. They have like there's a map in Volo's Guide where they basically just have these like big kind of like bubble rooms that attach to each other. Like they're like kind of semi-spherical rooms. And like the thing is like because they are so psionically inclined, it's safe to assume that a lot of like they don't have doors with handles on them. Why would they need that? They could just push them open with their brains.
Sure.
There's so many ways you can run Mind Flayers, and because of Volo's Guide, there's so many like variations if you want to do something with that, and because they're, you know, they tend to like to enthrall other races to bring other people because their favorite food is those sweet, delicious brains. They love to eat brains.
Yum, yum, yum. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I talk about my next one?
Yes.
So this was prepared without us even talking to one another, which I think is kind of funny. My next one is the Intellect Devourer.
I know that one.
So I liked this guy because it literally just looks like a brain with like horrible claws.
Yes.
Like, that's kind of cool. So according to D&D lore, these creatures were bred by Mind Flayers to serve as the roaming hunters of the Underdark, creating an intellectual devourer by taking the brain of a thrall and subjecting it to a horrible ritual. Pretty great, right?
Classic.
So as I was reading through these things, I was thinking of like maybe how could one potentially utilize these things, in a game, and you know, going back to our like discussion about vampires from 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So like we were talking about, you know, vampires and how you know, you can't have, you know, like, you know, you have vampire spawn, and then the vampire spawn, like, you know, proves that there's a vampire around. I was thinking like one of the things that the intellect devourer can do is it devours intellect, but two, it can take over bodies and basically take control of them And not only do they retain all of their knowledge of being an intellect devourer, that also learns all of the intellect of the body they've taken over. So, like, imagine, like, you know, your party gets a quest and, you know, they're going deeper and deeper into this dungeon led by this NPC. And then at the end, there's nothing, and the NPC turns around and starts attacking them. And then when they finally kill them, like, the intellect devourer pops out. And then suddenly it reveals a bigger world where, shit, there are mind flayers you have to take care of. So I thought that this would be a cool introduction to a bigger, scarier story that involves mind flayers. So,
yes, that's perfect. I love how sinister that is.
Yeah, right. I thought it would be a cool encounter. So
right, all right.
And then they might try to take over like one of the party members, even though that would be difficult.
Yeah,
but...
I mean, it's still fucking crazy though. So I want to briefly mention too, because I think I'd like to maybe do an episode on one of these. Maybe, who knows, down the road. But the Star Spawn from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes.
Okay.
They are so scary. Mordenkainen could only put one of the different variants as a picture.
Oh god.
I don't think that's actually the reason, but like to me it makes sense. Like I love like the Star Spawn kind of imply that there's, in the deep recesses of space, there are like cosmic entities that we see as stars, or we think are stars, but they're actually these creatures of malintent, and, over the countless years, they send their malice and hate to the material plane as the Star Spawn. Uh-huh. And, undescribable creatures of the non-Euclidean order. These guys are rough. A very smart and practiced DM could make quick work of a party using Star Spawn.
That sounds pretty.
And then finally, last but not least, the only aberration that I could find that had the good alignment.
Oh, fun.
The Flumph. Oh. Yeah.
Oh man, tell me
it is a alien jellyfish that has its eyes on stalks that kind of float above the head. I honestly don't know much about it. There wasn't a whole lot to go on, other than the fact that like I was looking through them and I was like, wait, Flump is an aberration, and it's the only one that is like considered a good, like a lawful good creature.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
It looks like
if you haven't
monster.
Yeah, if you haven't seen one, type in FLUMPH and then D&D, and you get to see how nasty this thing is. Well, I think it's adorable, but some people would probably think it's nasty. But anyways,
if you think
we
should. If you don't think it's adorable, then we can't be friends anymore.
I mean, you can send us an email to tell me how wrong or right we are that flumps are adorable. So anyways, I think we should wrap it up.
I think so too. Hey guys, thank you for listening to this episode of this is a little bit weirder one, but we got there. We did it. I couldn't even get out of it. So anyways, please rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you for listening to the episode. Please pass it along to a friend. We grow thanks to you and our fans and things like that. We don't advertise anywhere. This is all through word of mouth. And what aberration would you want to fight the least in your Dungeons and Dragons party? Tweet that at us. And signing off for Fan Roulette, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.